Hello and welcome to episode 5 of The Conversation with Reflow Field Management. My name is Josh, and in this episode we sat down with Matt Lambert from Highways Industries to talk about their beginnings, greener highways and their new steering group, sustainability and much more. To catch up on the rest of the conversation, head over to our YouTube channel.
Greener Highways for us was born out of seeing more of our clients producing content around sustainability. Could we contribute? Could we do something that's a little bit more cause-based? One of the big developments for us will be using this space. For our clients, we want them to have a space that they can come, talk about their businesses, talk about industry topics, make their own content here.
So Matt, thank you for letting us come visit you at your office and use this lovely studio space. Can you just tell us a little bit about you, so who you are and what you do here at Highways Industries?
So my name's Matt Lambert and I'm the general manager here. The mission of the platform ultimately is to showcase our clients' brands to the industry. How we do that is through highwaysindustry.com. We have the largest online dedicated highways news website in the UK, and we have clients that will utilize digital packages of content on that platform to showcase themselves. Secondarily, we also have a content creation arm to the business. So we make video, aerial drone pilots, we do CGI, we write content, we do aerial and ground photography. So we have a pretty broad, extensive range of services. So we can create content and we can release content. So yeah, we've got a pretty rounded offering, I think, when it comes to being able to work with clients and really showcase what they do and who they are.
Can you share a little bit about Highways Industries' origin story? So how it started and how it's got to where it is today in the industry.
The idea for the business was born out of a conversation between a couple of previous directors and our current MD around sourcing product for this industry online. A previous director worked for Balfour Beatty, was tasked with something, was a little bit frustrated that there wasn't just one place that you could go, find out who did it, where you can get it from, and make contact. So the idea for the business was born out of that, really, and initially started in, I think, late 2011, 2012 as an online directory, a Highways Yellow Pages, if you will. And over time, just sort of evolved based from little ideas like, why don't we have some industry news on there? Why don't we have advertising space that someone could put a banner or something like that on there? And then as, I guess, the world's changed and marketing and branding's changed, it sort of evolved to then be a little bit more content heavy than that. And we still do have the directory on the website, but sort of moved away from that directory model. And I think a real big thing for us was, I don't want to say being ahead of the curve on social media, because I'm not that self-grandiose, but I think for this industry, taking social media really seriously quite early. So I started here in 2014. The whole social aspect of the content we were sharing at the time and putting on the website was massive to us. The industry itself wasn't as receptive. Some companies and clients that we still have today, really receptive. They were on it. They really liked that. But I had a lot of conversations with people 8 or 9 years ago that would maybe scoff at social media's use for business and for this industry in particular. We trucked on building groups, building pages and a following across all kinds of social networks. As you know, the world's continued to change and evolve, and I'd be surprised if you could find a business now without some form of social page. When that tipping effect really started to come and that shift was made, I think we were just in a really good position then to all of a sudden have that audience. It wasn't a case of needing to suddenly build an audience for this digital age. It was already there, or 2/3 of the way there to what it is now, let's say. And I think that stood us in really good stead.
So you're also involved in Greener Highways. So can you just tell us a little bit about what makes Greener Highways so unique? Shed some light on the initiatives that you're planning to extend to its audience.
So Greener Highways for us was a bit of a step outside of everything that we do with the highways industry side of the business. It was very much brand and marketing focused. Greener Highways for us was born out of seeing more of our clients producing content around sustainability, and a few conversations in-house then leading to, I guess, a question of could we contribute? Could we do something that's a little bit more cause-based, that's not necessarily focusing on building people's brands and working on their marketing material? So this idea was born to try and build this, I guess, collaborative working group across the sector to be able to help in the acceleration of achieving the sustainability targets that this industry faces. Obviously, it's very carbon heavy, and the premise behind it really was things will only really change with more people at the same table, sharing ideas, learning from each other, working together. You can be the most sustainable company in the world in your own practice, but if you don't tell anyone, if nobody knows you're doing that, if you're not kind of linking in with other players within the same sector to achieve the bigger picture goal, you're kind of doing it for a competitive advantage. You're going to sell yourself on those sustainability benefits, but actually, are you doing it for the sustainability? Maybe. It's probably a really, really positive byproduct, but ultimately, if you only ever keep it to yourself, as a collective, we don't get anywhere. So that's kind of how it was born. That's kind of the premise behind it. And we're about, I think, 2 years in November. So we're a few months away now. So it'll be 2 years in November. We've got some really good relationships with National Highways, the Asset Management Academy. We've got some really, really proactive members. And yeah, it's going well. It's going well.
There are kind of two factors to sustainability. There's all the environmental side of sustainability, but then there's just kind of, keeping businesses going. Can you elaborate on the broader dimensions of sustainability?
Yeah, I think when we first started, to be honest, we don't claim to be sustainability experts. We never have. As I mentioned, we wanted to try and contribute something. What that was in its initial guise, we didn't know. Obviously now from reading, learning, researching and conversations, I think the environmental aspect is the one that everybody immediately would think about, especially in this sector, as I mentioned, very carbon heavy and a lot of targets around net zero. As you mentioned, like the economic sustainability of the sector, the kind of human factors and the human sustainability of the sector, as well as the social value element involved, are all things that we're trying to, I don't really like using the term like tick the boxes of as we move along. So looking at solutions that are economically viable initially and into the future. A massive topic in the industry at the moment is something like road worker abuse. Well, that falls into human sustainability. If we've got no people, we don't have a sector, we've got no one to do the work in its most basic form, as well as a few other elements there. Skills gap being one of them. It's got to be sustainable in that regard for people, and again, social value and kind of community initiatives, and all our members are looking to positively affect their localities and other institutions in their localities, which part of the reason that they became a member of Greener Highways. We have schools outreach. We have an initiative called My Greener Highway, where every member adopts a street or a work site that they pledge to keeping clean for 12 months, among some other things as well.
If you think about it from a member of the public's point of view, there's lots of talk about, net zero, the carbon targets that are set by the government when it comes to greener sustainability. What are the key initiatives that companies in the sector are doing? Are there any insights into how effective that these efforts have been?
I think when it comes to sort of net zero, we have a lot of clients that are investing in things like electric vehicles, for example. As a member of the public, unless you pay particular attention to a company name, maybe the type of work they do and the little green slip on their number plate of their electric vehicle, it might be difficult. I can see that. I think it is like a mutual awareness thing, because I had a conversation with a gentleman from a local authority recently who said, around the topic of road worker abuse, actually, not to just digress a little bit, he said, but a lot of local residents want their potholes filled and their verges trimmed and everything to look okay. But as a local authority, they have a challenge of encouraging biodiversity, which means they might not trim the hedges or keep the verges clear or whatever it may be. And then their people are subject to criticism, abuse, and potentially other kind of negative behaviours. So it's a rock and a hard place from that perspective, that yes, they want to keep people happy by keeping up the works. Delaying, slowing or stopping some of the works might actually result in a more positive impact in terms of sustainability, but everybody kind of has to cater to that road user. So I don't know if it's a case of the public would notice, but I think it would be a really positive step if more of the general public understood that what they may see isn't necessarily lazy workers or a neglected contract or whatever it may be. There are challenges that companies and local authorities within this sector face that can't necessarily always be solved.
So do you find that clients are finding it harder to hit the sustainable targets that they've set themselves because of the lack of funding?
Probably not for me to say, because obviously I don't work in the office of every client. I don't know their accounts and their spends and their situations and stuff like that. But I think when it comes to making a decision, for example, Green Highways has a membership fee. It has to have a membership fee, firstly because things like the school packs and the administration of the organisation and bits and pieces have a cost. We have a charitable donation out of every member fee. These things have a cost. The second reason is to fully avoid any sort of blatant greenwashing of an organisation just saying, yeah, we'll be a member, cool, we're in. Actually having a small hurdle to entry kind of separates those who are willing to put their money where their mouth is and commit their time and a little bit of finance. I haven't really found that that's been a major barrier to people being involved. But I think it's like anything, isn't it? It can be the size of the fee, the actual investment that has to be made in relation to a company's budget. If you're a major contractor and it's a relatively small fee, it's probably a lot easier to do than it is if you're a startup with every eye on sustainability. But at the moment, if you're not in a position to do it, I think it's relative, isn't it? It's all individual to a business. I think that on the whole, I think there are a lot of companies willing to really invest their time, to invest some finance and to invest energy into it. I just think the quality of what they're buying into is probably going to be the determining factor. Like, if someone sees that this is going to be good for their business, good for their community, everybody's got an ear open to these things, I think. 'Cause it's such an important thing.
So let's talk about the Green Highways steering group. So it's a recent introduction of the steering group, if I'm right in saying that.
Early 2023, yeah. So it's kind of established in January and recently just added a few more members.
The idea of it is very, very interesting. Could you just provide a little bit of detail about what it's actually going to do, what you hope it's going to do, how you think it's going to be of benefit to the industry as a whole?
I think, first of all, it pays to have more people that are invested in sustainability and in the future of the sector making the decisions about what Greener Highways are doing. It's all well and good, myself and Mark, my director, just making decisions as a two-man operation. But again, we know we're not necessarily the type of company that's always got boots on the ground. So for the companies that do have boots on the ground and other experiences in other areas, it pays to have that expertise as part of the decision-making process as we go forward. And that steering group's made up of a variety of kind of people and job titles, from sustainability directors to HSEQ leads to marketing managers, because ultimately part of what we want to do is about spreading awareness, and there's a different scope of skills within that group to try and help us. It's feedback on things we've done, it's coming with new ideas, it's bringing things from their own businesses that they think could be implemented on a wider scale that through our skills could reach industry more efficiently and quickly than their business alone.
Drawing on the 10 years experience you've got of working closely with companies in the highways industry, kinds of challenges that these companies typically encounter?
I think when it comes to conversations around, let's say, working with somebody like ourselves, funding, budget, it seems that it's a bit of a cycle, because if there's less money available to a company, marketing's one of the first things to get reduced. Yet when it comes to wanting to win work and be seen, marketing's the thing they need. So it's a little bit of a vicious cycle if you're shrinking your marketing budget but relying on it maybe more and more in a, you know, as you kind of vying for work. There's a little bit of a, those things can't really work together. They're not really helpful to each other to have less available but need more. So again, we're kind of on that side of things, where the biggest challenge I would say our clients see is budget, because, and again, everything's going up typically.
Yeah.
Not working with us, just add that now. But everything's going up at the moment, and everyone's got different financial pressures.
We're going to slightly shift and talk about sort of digital technology. It's becoming more and more accessible to everyone, really. In the highways sector, and even in the construction sector, the adoption of those technologies have been actually quite sluggish. What do you think has contributed to the slower growth in the adoption of these technologies?
I think there's a real problem with just, this is kind of how we've always done it. I'm sure, you know, you guys yourselves, you're a digital solution. If you have to go have a conversation with someone about why they'd use software over paper, if someone's paper systems never let them down, there'll be errors, there'll be lost paper, this, that and the other. But if that business has survived for 5, 10, 20 years using a paper system, why would they use your system? Well, you got 50 reasons why they'd use your system. But I think that mentality is, why would we? This is fine, like we're okay here. Skills gap's been mentioned for as long as I've worked in this industry, and it's almost been framed as, if we don't have people that know how to deliver, let's just say roadworks as a blanket term, we have an issue. Like, this sector does have a slightly older workforce, and we think, oh, what if those people can't do that? But actually, a real challenge of that skills gap is teaching that slightly older workforce to use the digital stuff. And if there's a reluctance there, that's a real problem. I also think a big problem is people don't want to put their neck on the line and get it wrong. I think everybody wants to be first, as long as someone else has done it, which I realise is not possible. But everyone wants to be first and say, we were the first to do this, we were the first to implement this, we did this first before anybody else. But everyone likes the safety net of just seeing how somebody else got on with it. You know, if you do what you've always done and it goes wrong, you yourself personally as a decision maker are probably off the hook.
We're just going to quickly talk about Reflow. You've seen Reflow's journey from day one to where we are now as a company. What is it about Reflow? What are the specific attributes that might have contributed to the success among companies that are operating with our software in the highway sector?
The first thing I would say is going right back before day one. Your MD, owner, Mike, called us and we had a conversation about this thing that he was working on. Had a chat, had a conversation about it. In the very early days, did a very small favour, and he remembered it. When Reflow was really then getting up and running, he came back to us to work together. And I think if that's how your organisation kind of works from the top, like valuing the relationship, valuing people that have maybe helped you along the way, and then wanting to work together with those people to have proper relationships and partnerships, number one for me would be that. Like if that is your like culture from a people point of view, I can see why you do have as many clients as you have and the growth that you have, because if that's how you treat people, that's only going to go positively. I think secondly, again, I can't speak for the very, very ins and outs of your software because I don't use it. The product clearly works. It clearly services the need of many, many companies in this industry. So if you've got good people, good relationships, a product and a system that meets a need, then you're already onto a winner, aren't you? And again, this is very, very easy for me to say because this is my wheelhouse, but your marketing's top notch, and it has been for years. You do a lot of it. It's varied. It's not all based around your system and your product. You talk about other topics. You talk about the industry. You're consistent with it. You're across multiple platforms. You make videos. You make podcasts. Your marketing's very good. So on the back of something that is a very good product, run by good people, the way that you make people aware of what you're doing, I think is, for this industry in terms of marketing, is top notch.
Looking forward, what can we expect to see from both Highways Industry and Green Highways? Are there any exciting developments or plans that we should keep our eyes out for?
Highways industry wise, I hope next time you hear this studio's got a bit more decor and stuff like that. You're obviously taking us for a test run today. We recently moved into this office space probably 2 months ago, so kind of settling in here. And one of the big developments for us will be using this space. You know, for our clients, we want them to have a space that they can come talk about their businesses, talk about industry topics, make their own content here, all just as a way of kind of adding value to working with us. You know, we are constantly, with the solutions that we offer, we are constantly trying to add things to our packages, tweak things, like keep them fit for the times, you know. And we used to say, like, market like the year that you're in. Well, that's always going to change. Therefore, what we offer needs to change. And how can we always just give more and add more and bring more value to what we do for a client? I mean, you know, you folks obviously make podcasts. Well, if other clients want to make podcasts, we want to be able to say, look, we've got a space you can use. You can come make your podcast for free. For example, we know the sector. We're ready to go. That's a big thing for us.
Where can people stay updated with all the resources that Highways Industry put out, and Greener Highways as well?
Yeah, well, we've got the websites, www.highwaysindustry.com, www.greenerhighways.co.uk. We're on all socials, as I mentioned earlier. It'd be a little bit of false prophecy if we weren't on there. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we're all over those. And yeah, maybe we can give you the sites and the links to put on the end of a video, perhaps.
Brilliant. Once again, thanks for having us. Thanks for letting us come and visit and use the studio space. And also thanks for putting some time aside to sit and chat with us today.
No, you're welcome, mate. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This has been The Conversation with Reflow Field Management. To find out more about field management, head to re-flow.co.uk, book a demo and qualify for a free trial. To find out more about Reflow, head over to our social media channels and give us a follow.